Okay, so hello everybody. For those that are here live and watching the replay, I'm here with my partner, Nicole Nixon from Home Equity, who is the original creator of reverse mortgages and the leaders. We're going to answer, I guess, probably the next 30 minutes, maybe really share exactly what they are, what they aren't, eliminate hopefully some stigmas that you have about them, eliminate some myths that are floating around. And then Nicole's going to share some real life examples of how clients and realtors have taken this information and really been able to service their clients, become that trusted advisor, and at the end of the day, ultimately get more transactions out of it because it's a little creative thinking outside the box. So hopefully, if you have any questions, I'll monitor the chat. So ask away, either take yourself off mute or type it in the chat. Nicole will probably answer most of them and be about 30 minutes, I think. Is that what you said, Nicole? And then we'll do a Q&A or get you out early, get ready for the party tonight. So with that, I am going to pass the floor to Nicole Nixon. I'll let you do an introduction and start. Oh, Nicole, oh, you can share screen. There you go. Perfect.
Yeah, I just tried it. It worked. Awesome.
Okay, I didn't have to do anything. Less technical, the better. Okay, on to you.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much, Janice. I really appreciate you inviting me to speak a little bit about reverse mortgages. You know, you mentioned stigma, and stigma is the biggest thing. The only way to get around stigma is through education. So Michelle made that comment, oh, I thought the bank owned the home. These are the pieces that are keeping clients away from this option. Things that aren't even true. And these are the things that can allow them to increase their wealth, give them more lifestyle, and really improve their life. You know, as a pensioner, you are on a fixed income. It doesn't have to be all doom and gloom. You have options. And I think for realtors, there is a massive opportunity for you. And as Janice mentioned, we are going to be going through those situations. But just to address that one question Michelle had, oh, I thought the bank owned the home. No, this is a mortgage where we have a lien against the property. So it's the same as really any other mortgage with some specific differences. With that, I'm going to jump right in because the focus of today's session is not to make you an expert on reverse mortgages, okay? I want to ensure that you're aware of the option, that you understand that it's a fantastic option. Should you have other questions, absolutely approach Janice. Let's do a one-on-one because ultimately, the idea is that this information is going to allow you to go into 2022 with another tool in your pocket and a tool that Janice has that you can sort of consider when you have a client who may fit this niche. You go, hold on a second, let me call Janice because I think there may be another option that we haven't quite considered. Okay, let's move forward.
Before you jump in, I do want to share one thing you mentioned when we were at our meeting, and I thought it was really relevant because if you look at before HELOCs, like home equity lines of credits now they're just like everyone uses them as checking accounts, as investment accounts, like for anything. The reverse mortgage is kind of where HELOCs were. However, like 20 years ago when they first came on the scene, nobody understood how powerful they were, how beneficial they were to creating wealth and being able to make financial decisions. And we're kind of on the cusp of that with the reverse mortgages. I thought that was a really great analogy. And probably not the last time I'll cut you off or jump in.
No.
But I'll pass it back to you.
Right? This is a collaboration, Janice. I really appreciate that because you're absolutely right. Just because someone isn't aware of the option, it doesn't mean that it's not a legitimate option, number one. Number two, things change over time. So we are a company that's been around, and to Janice's point, we're the original. We are the largest provider of reverse mortgages in Canada. We've been around since 1986. Now, again, 1986, you go, oh my gosh, then how come I've never heard of you? Because maybe it just hasn't been relevant. But these days it is. And let me explain to you why. Maybe you're not aware that 45% of homeowners are over the age of 55. So this has become growing with quite a bit notoriety, understanding that this is where, and 2/3 of the real estate wealth in Canada are owned by baby boomers. 2/3. We also know real estate has been an incredible investment, has it not? So we go back to the 60s and 70s, the 80s, when people thought, housing prices are only going to increase 1 or 2%. That was a fluke in 1984. That's not going to happen again. But what we've realized is, you know what? It's become a great investment. And that makes absolute sense because of the demand for people to live in Canada, then the demand for people to live in Ontario, and imagine the demand for people to live in a world-class city like Toronto. So values have increased, and really they're going to continue to increase. I'm sure you all as realtors believe that, and you've seen it in your careers. Now, when we're talking about this segment of the population, the 55 plus, realize that 66% of these Canadians are carrying debt into retirement and 21% are credit challenged. They're not sure what to do, but they definitely don't want to lose their home, which is why they may stay away from this product. Or if you mention it, they may say, oh, good God, who would want to do that? I'm not interested. Now, the other part is that the average 65 plus retiree is carrying $200,000 of investments into retirement. And 50% believe they're going to run out of money in 10 years. And guess what? They're right. They will run out of money if they don't figure out a different plan to manage their finances better. Now, let me just talk about this for a second, because I just made the statement that, they're carrying 200,000. There's only 12% of the population of retirees that are wealthy to the point where they give their 16-year-old granddaughters and daughters cars, where they buy houses for their, families, their sons, their daughters, their families. 12% of the population. What about the other 88%? They may have $500,000 in savings, which sounds like a lot of money, and it sure would be if you're 40. But when you're 65 and you have 500,000 and you're no longer working, that is only going to last you about 8 years. Only 25% have a financial planner. So who's giving them financial advice? Who are the individuals, the professionals? And I'm not talking about, my next door neighbor used to work in a bank 10 years ago. I'm not talking about, my dentist really is interested in investing in the market. These are not professionals. These are people that do it for a hobby. You need to work with a professional like Janice, who has access to all lenders, including reverse mortgages. So with only 25% having a financial planner, who's giving them financial advice? Are they going to their realtor? I mean, fantastic, because you as a realtor have partners that you can bring in. Okay. Now, finally, I say Canadians age 65 will have a 50% chance of living to 92 and a half. I want to remind you that back in the day, back in the 80s and 90s, the life expectancy of individuals, of Canadians, was 85 years old. That's increased 7 years and more. And as healthcare improves and as all of these things come into play, age is going to become longer. Now, you definitely want to make sure that you have the money to live longer. And this is a way to do that. So I'm going to keep going. Now, again, misconceptions are massive. There are many misconceptions of what is a reverse mortgage. Will the bank own the home? Can the bank force the homeowner to sell or foreclose at any time? With a reverse mortgage, will the homeowner owe more than their house is worth? Are reverse mortgages too expensive? Is it a last resort solution? None of these things are true. It's when we sit down and we explain all of these things that people go, oh, so what I thought was incorrect. Yeah, that's right. It was just a thought that was incorrect. So let's move on to reality. We have all of this information for you should you need it, should you want it. Now, let's talk about the unique features and benefits of a reverse mortgage. The first thing I want to say is that it's a payment optional mortgage. Some people believe that if I take a reverse mortgage, I can't make payments. Not true. You can absolutely make payments, and you can have that mortgage as long as one of the applicants or borrowers is still living in the home. Okay. And that just means you may have an 84 and an 85-year-old couple. The 85-year-old really needs to go into a retirement living so that they have 24-hour care. As long as that one spouse is in the home, this can continue. There are limited credit and income requirements. We are talking about pensioners that are on CPP and OAS and earn anywhere from $1,500 slightly up. It's not enough. We don't look at income the same way as a traditional mortgage looks at income. What we really do is we use their age and their property details in order to determine how much they qualify for. And it says here, ability to unlock up to 55%. Can't tell you how many people come to me and say, how come I don't qualify for 55%? I guess they missed those two little words, up to 55%. And it depends on the age and it depends on the property. But the beautiful thing is that within about 30 seconds, if you have someone who's interested or you have a client that you think this could be valuable, I could tell you that number. Janice could give you that number in about 30 seconds and tell you what they could qualify for. Now, funds could be advanced as needed. So you don't have to take all the money. Think of it like it's a global line of credit that is available. Since we need to be, Home Equity Bank needs to be in first position, we're going to pay out all existing mortgages and HELOCs. Okay. You only pay interest on what you're borrowing. So if you qualify for 500,000, but you only need 200, think of it like there's a $300,000 line of credit sitting there, accruing zero interest that can be accessed at any time. Proceeds are tax-free, and this is huge, and you're going to see this as we move forward. You know, proceeds are tax-free is sort of one of those things where people say, you know, I have my RSPs and I have money invested. I'm just going to use that for my down payment. But they don't realize that that's money that is going to have tax consequences attached to it. As soon as they draw it, it's going to be added to their income. And they're either going to pay capital gains or they're going to pay income tax on that money. This money is tax-free. So it's a better option. It really is when you do the math. And I've done the math. I've been here for several years. I've done the math. It really does work much better. And finally, penalties are waived upon death, which means at any time in the process, if at any time when the client holds a reverse mortgage, if the last borrower dies, there are no penalties to pay it out. And because the last borrower has died, we give the estate about 180 days, 6 months to pay us out. Now, it could be more if they have extenuating circumstances. Maybe you have a client who has passed away and the kids are coming in, the estate's coming in to say, listen, we need to do some renovations to this house. We need to fix some things up. We need to sort out the estate. We can't sell it right now. It's going to take longer. We would say, no problem. Now, let me get down to what you are here for today. And this is about situations that realtors can consider. The first one is down payment for children and grandchildren. I have done many mortgages for these particular situations. Now, the stat is that 6 of 10 home buyers are getting down payments from their grandparents or their parents. 6 of 10. The average a year ago was 82,000, and I believe, Janice, it's now up to 130,000. That number is going to keep increasing.
Yeah. For first-time home buyers, it's about 130. And then if it's a move-up buyer, it's closer to 200.
Right. So the move up buyer, ideal. They're not a first time buyer, but they're looking to expand. Maybe they have 3 kids now and they're looking to either change where they're living entirely or maybe move from that condo to a detached home. If you have a client that is getting a gift, I would suggest that the opportunity is to maybe get them to have another conversation with Janice. And the reason why I mentioned that is because of this. You may have this client and they're saying, this is how much I qualify for. I need to look for a house that's no more than 1.1 million. But when you're doing the search and you're showing them properties, 1.1 million is not enough. Maybe they need to increase that property value to 1.2 or 1.3 in order to get what they want. If there is an opportunity for a living inheritance where the parent or grandparent says, you know, you're going to get this money anyway, what I'm going to do is I'm going to give it to you now so that you can buy that house, so that I can see what you're doing with that money and you could benefit from it today instead of waiting until I die. I got to tell you, everyone's happy in these situations. But down payments, this is one opportunity for realtors to identify. And then if they can do a reverse mortgage, maybe that purchase goes from 1.1 to 1.2.5. Maybe it goes to 1.3 million is now their focus. Again, you'll turn it around sooner. You'll have happier clients, and all around, everyone is satisfied in this situation. Now, the next one is right sizing versus downsizing. You know, downsizing also, like reverse mortgages, has a bit of a negative connotation to it. Downsizing means that, you know, you were up here and now you're actually going down here. You need to really take a step back, and instead of moving up in life, you're actually moving down. What we like to call it is right sizing, because sometimes it's not about value. Sometimes it's not about square footage. It's about convenience and how that individual wants to live. Maybe they are thinking about downsizing and going from a 2-story home to a 1-level home, but maybe that 1-level home is a triplex. And buying that triplex is not only going to allow them to live on 1 level, but it'll also give them rental income in order to continue managing their expenses. Again, going from a 2-story to a triplex, maybe that means that they'll need that they're looking for a larger mortgage or a larger dollar valued home. So it may not be considered a downsize, but it is a downsize when you're talking about square footage. Think about right sizing, getting the client the home they want. We're going to go through some scenarios. The next one is renovating to sell. That's kind of huge. If you've been living in your house for 40 or 50 years, you can imagine the things that you keep over time, and sometimes renovations are needed. I'll show an example of that. And one other big one is purchasing an investment or a vacation property. We've seen a lot of that in the last year. People saying, you know what, I think I want to buy a condo today so that I can benefit from the income, but eventually I could move into that when I no longer want to live in my home here. Or maybe it's, you know, I just want to buy a second property. I want to buy a property up north so that I have a place to go when I sort of want to get away from the city. I've done that as well. Now, let's go through some examples. Let's talk about early inheritance. This is the down payment portion. So Emma was a client who was working with a realtor. She had $100,000 from a marital split, but really it wasn't enough to qualify for the home of her choice. What she had considered was asking her parents for assistance, but she was very reluctant because she knew that they had very little savings. They were well into their 80s. She knew they were on government pensions and really did not want to put them in a bad position. But once the realtor asked her to speak to their broker partner, they spoke about the reverse mortgage. And Emma said, you know what, this makes sense to me. Let's bring in my parents. When the parents came into that conversation, they were more than happy to help. And they ended up getting approved for a lot more than they needed. They gave Emma her down payment. They gave her $125,000. And what they ended up doing was actually taking some money for themselves. They wanted to create a larger income stream for them so that they were better off. It was ideal. Without that reverse mortgage investment, they would have continued to look and look and look for properties that she could not afford. She wasn't happy. And it's likely that eventually the Emma would have said, you know, my realtor is just not the right realtor. The realtor can't find me what I'm looking for. It's the realtor's fault. It's not. But you need to find those tools that are going to help you get that sale. And this is one of them. Okay. Now let's look at this other situation. In this situation, there were actually 3 ends for this one. This was a couple that met later on in life, Mr. Pulley and Ms. Ferris. They came together and they decided they wanted to live together and be together. They wanted to sell their own homes, put their money together and purchase another property. They both had $350,000 to contribute, but they needed a little bit more. They could have qualified for a mortgage, a traditional mortgage, but they really, you know, wanted to enjoy their life and not have to make payments. So this was a perfect option. We did a reverse mortgage as the first mortgage for $335,000. They chose to defer the interest. They don't want to make any payments. They chose to defer the interest. They got exactly the property that they wanted. And I believe, if memory serves, in this situation, yeah, I see it there. They took additional funds to do renovations. They actually wanted to increase the value of the property and really make it more of, you know, closer to their home. It was an ideal solution, incredibly happy. And the realtor got 3 ends in this scenario. Next one, purchase to right size. So again, client wanted to move closer to Brampton from Caledon, wanted to be closer to medical services and just felt more comfortable. She found a condo. She thought it was perfect. But, you know, when someone starts talking condo fees, the client started feeling a little bit unsettled, was really worried about what is this going to look like for her moving forward. The realtor brought in the referral partner. The realtor brought in her broker partner, and the broker explained how CHIP could be used to sort of support those condo fees. She ended up getting approved for $200,000. She took $100,000 every month simply to take care of the condo fees. No worries, no stress. It was such an easy process, and she felt incredibly comfortable. Another one, purchase for investment. I'm sure you have clients that are coming to you and saying, you know, I hear real estate's a great investment. I already have money invested in the market. I'm thinking that I want to invest in a rental property. Well, that's what this client did. She was widowed. She has a single family dwelling in Milton that she loved. She had no intention of moving, but she wanted to get another property that she thought was in a great area that she could rent for now. And maybe when she was ready, she could sell her existing property and move in there. She had $175,000 as a down payment and referred to the broker partner. The first part was that she's a 73-year-old widow, one income. Qualifying, she had a huge down payment, but qualifying for a mortgage was not in the cards. However, in this situation, what we did was we blanketed her existing free and clear property in Milton with the new property that was being purchased. She was approved for $550,000, which was more than enough with her down payment to make that purchase happen. And then she ended up increasing her income by $2,500 a month with the rental income. Now, Mrs. Wilson was one of those clients who said, I can't get a mortgage without making a payment. I just don't feel comfortable. So we said, no problem. You can make interest payments if you like. We started with the interest payments. A few months later, she called me and said, Nicole, do I have to make those interest payments? Because, I kind of wanted to do a little bit more different things with my money. I said, absolutely. We stopped making the payments. Brilliant. I think this is one of my last scenarios. This is the renovating for sale. Now, again, I just want to be clear that reverse mortgage clients are like snowflakes. Not one is the same as the next, okay? This client came to us from the realtor, widowed, devastated, wanted to get out of the house as soon as possible. Realtor was trying to do the right thing by him and saying, listen, if you sell the house as is, you're not going to make as much money as you could. And we knew that he needed as much money as possible when he sold that property. So what we did was they were referred to myself. They ended up getting an open mortgage for the client. They were approved for $150,000. They actually were approved for a lot more than that, but they only needed 150. They took 100,000 to pay down debt and 50,000 to renovate the home. The home was sold for more than 100,000 more than what it was originally going to sell for. So brilliant solution. And because it was in an open mortgage, no penalties to pay it out when that house was sold. This is also a great story. Couple of clients, 74 and 76, they are looking forward to the future and saying, we have no intention of moving today and selling our house today, but we know that we will need to in the future. So we want to look at that property today and purchase it. We want to purchase it and we want to rent it until we're ready. And then when we are ready, we know it's going to take us about a year to downsize, to decide what furniture needs to go, what needs to stay, and so forth. And it's going to take some time. So what we did in this particular situation is we, again, blanketed the existing property with the new property. So we took the existing single detached home in Scarborough and blanketed it with the new condo. And we just left it at that to say, great, now you own two properties. The ball is in your court to decide what you want to do moving forward. When are you ready? But right now, your net worth is actually going to increase because now you have more property growing and that investment continues growing. I just wanted to mention a little bit about Chip Open because it's a relatively new product that we launched. And the reason why I wanted to share it is because what it does is it gives more flexibility to one of our clients. So one of these baby boomers who just need short-term funds, it's an ideal product, okay? Now, in the absence of better solutions, retirees and pensioners are forced to consider unfavorable options. Maybe you have a pensioner coming to you and saying, I got to sell my house. I got to sell my condo. I can't stay here anymore. I can't afford it. They can't qualify for a mortgage and they're going to have to sell it and then rent. Maybe that's not the best option. Maybe they can sell that property and purchase a different property and use the reverse mortgage to manage the cost difference between the two. I mean, in this situation, you're going maybe from one sale to two. Also, downsizing versus right sizing. This product can help someone get into the right property so they don't sacrifice what they think is important to them. Again, some people think, I don't want to spend so much money. But once the money is spent and they're living in that house, if they're not happy, they've just wasted money. If they need a reverse mortgage to increase the purchase power, to get them from maybe purchasing an $800,000 condo to a $950,000 condo because it's a better condo, it's a better purchase, and it's more appropriate for what they need, then this is a brilliant option. And, you know, Janice would have just helped you increase that commission 150,000, right? Remember that RIF withdrawals with a heavy tax penalty is not the best solution. And again, restricting spending for a pensioner when you're already on a little bit of income and they're already, you know, saving every penny may not be the best. But this is a product that allows retirees to use their equity to assist with their needs. Costs, it's not expensive. They pay an appraisal cost. There's a closing cost. We have 2 lawyers always in a reverse mortgage transaction. The closing cost is anywhere from $17.95, and it can go up to $27.95. As an example, with our blanket scenarios, the legal fees on that is $2,795. And the final cost is ILA. Every client that takes out a reverse mortgage must get independent legal advice. The cost for independent legal advice, it ranges from about $600 to $1,000. So again, all of these fees, except for the appraisal, needs to be paid out of pocket. This will come out of the proceeds of the mortgage. Now, that's what I had to present to you folks today. I would be more than happy to answer any questions, to share with you more information or a financial illustration to actually show you how, you know, some people think one of the frequently asked questions is, if I'm never making a mortgage payment, then eventually it's going to eat all the equity in my house. That's what most people think. It doesn't actually happen. I can explain that to you, but I will throw this back to you and say, let's open it up for questions.
Well, I have to say that is one of my questions. When you look at the interest rate, which was prime plus 4%, so you know you're looking at 6% or more. So
you know what? I love that you brought that up, and I got to say that the CHIP Open, there is a higher interest rate that's there, but why don't I run a scenario for you so that you can see it? So give me a sec. I'm just going to share my screen again.
Mm-hmm.
And please just ignore the mess. It's like you're coming into my home and it's quite messy. So give me a second. I'm going to show you what this looks like. Okay. So I'm just going to give you a general example. I'm going to say this person, now the average age of our client is 72. So, and we talked about the up to 55% piece. Let's say we had a couple and age makes all the difference in the world. Okay. So if you have the age wrong, the calculator is wrong. In this example, we have a 72-year-old male and a 68-year-old female. Let me just select this property. Let's just say Brampton. Let's say this property is a single family dwelling, and let's say it's $900,000. Okay. This is the first thing we're ever going to do when we're talking about a client. Of course, after we understand the scenario, it's about running the calculator to see how much can we get. So you'll see in this scenario, $900,000 appraised value. This client can get between $366,500 and $412,000. Let's just stay at the base, and you'll see below, you'll see our interest rates. Now, again, they're not maybe as high as people may think. If you're comparing it to a CIBC or an RBC or a bank product, that is really an A lending client. And A lending clients obviously are getting the best rates. Usually a pensioner won't qualify for A lending products. So the number one is they don't qualify. The number two is that even if they do qualify, do they really want to make that payment? And usually the answer is no. They want to keep that income for themselves. So let's say, for example, we end up taking the 366 and let's say we go with a 5-year. Now, most clients these days are not taking 5-year rates, they're taking 3-year. But again, as the economy and the market continues to change, we'll see what people end up doing and what's the forecast. But I'm going to assume a couple of things when I'm creating this financial illustration. They're going to take the whole amount of the 366.5. So they're going to start paying interest on that amount right away. The current value is 900,000. Interest rate is 5.49%, and they're locked into that term for 5 years. Now, here is where we need to do a little bit of work. I'm going to just run this estimate for 10 years. Let me ask you a question, Carol. If you were looking at the market of Brampton, I'm not sure what you know about Brampton, but if you were considering a GTA Brampton, what would you expect home appreciation rate to be?
Well, it's in excess of 3%. I can certainly say that.
Right? So if you were talking to your clients, what would you say? Would you say that they should expect 5%?
Easily, yes.
Right. I would change this to 5 because really, I would say at a very minimum, they're going to get 5%. It's likely going to be in the 7 to 10 and even higher range, but let's be conservative when we're looking at the future. Okay. I'm going to say that home appreciation is going to be 5%. So look at this right here. You'll see today they have a $900,000 home value, a reverse mortgage of 366.5, which gives them the remaining equity of 533,500 today. Now, 10 years from now, assuming a 5% growth rate on the real estate, that real estate is going to be worth 1.466, which is more than possible. That reverse mortgage, if no payments are made to that reverse mortgage, interest is going to accrue to $274,237. And when you do the math, the remaining home equity is going to be $825,270. So then someone says to me, but how do I have more equity now, later in 10 years, than I did when I started? Well, it's because the property is growing faster than the mortgage is. You see these details that I just viewed here. This is every year from 1 to 10. Again, we start off with 366 borrowed at our interest rate of 5.49, okay, leaving the 533. In the first year, this is the interest, 20,397. They're not making payments. So that's going to be added to the principal balance of 366. Total is 386,897. If that property increased by 5% a year, it's going to increase from 900 to 945,000. And look at that, equity is now higher than the year before. That continues to grow over time. That property value continues to grow. And if I were to just level set it for a minute to say, if you're paying 5% on 300,000 and you're earning 5% on $1 million, that what you're paying is never going to increase because that $1 million is going to grow faster. And this is why this has become such an incredible product for so many people over the years, especially the last 5 years, because property values have increased like unbelievably over time. So people have used this product to increase their cash flow, build their wealth, take care of an unexpected expense. Sometimes they've done it to renovate a property. That property value continues to grow much faster than the actual mortgage. Does that sound fair, Carol? Does that make sense?
Yeah, let me ask you this question then.
Sure.
Let's say you do the reverse mortgage on your principal residence and your interest costs that you use to borrow that money, you can write that off against your investment property, against the income on your investment property.
You sure can, Carol, and that's what many people are doing. So they'll take out a reverse mortgage on their primary. They will purchase a secondary they write off the interest on that reverse mortgage and they never make a payment. So it's a double whammy. It's a double sort of benefit. They get the write-off without actually money coming out of pocket.
Where the benefit, where the line of credit, you would be, if you did a line of credit against your principal residence, you would have to make payment of the interest.
Correct.
Whereas in the reverse mortgage, you're not.
That's exactly it.
Can I be
Janice,
vulnerable for a moment and give you a scenario that I'm going through right now? Because I made,
I love your
this is
vulnerability. Thank you.
full disclosure. I mean, everyone knows here that I made a career change a year ago. Even though I'm in the mortgage business, I'm not going to be able to get a mortgage because they take a 2-year average. I don't have a 2-year average as an employee or as a mortgage broker. So but I still, it's never too late to build a legacy. It's never too late to build wealth. So I'm going to get a blanket reverse mortgage because I have like a lot of equity in my home. I'm going to do that, combine it and buy an investment property. And I'm going to have the investment, I'm going to have the income just pay the interest. So I'm getting it so that there's going to be like, it's going to be no money out of my pocket and I'm going to be able to write it off. So it'll be the tax loss.
Mm-hmm.
So it's great for, so another, if you're thinking about where this could fit in, it's for people that maybe it's not because of my age that I can't qualify for a mortgage, but I might not be able to qualify for an A mortgage because of scenarios, like in my case. I mean, I was just talking to a client today. He wants to buy an investment property. He incorporated 1.5 years ago, and now he's dissolving it because he incorporated with a partner and he's dissolving it. So he's like going backwards in his eligibility unless I offer a solution like this. So there's always a mortgage somehow for somebody. And this is like, I'm just like throwing out my example because it's quite common actually, especially during COVID when a lot of new people took on starting their own businesses, but they're not going to qualify for anything because they've just started a business.
Or they started a new career, right? Yeah.
Like
now,
me.
Janice, yes. Now, Janice, I'm not sure because for me, it was a little jumbled. I'm not sure if everyone else got it clear. I just had a signal on my screen that says unstable internet connection. So I just wanted to let you know. But
Okay.
to that point, Janice, you're absolutely right. I have done mortgages for 57-year-olds, 62-year-olds who just inherited their parents' free and clear home. I did a mortgage for someone in March who inherited a friend's home in Toronto, $1 million. She inherited it. She doesn't have an income. She's really a dog walker. And the reason why she was given that property is because she had such a tight relationship with that person. That person had no one else to give her wealth to, and she wanted her to take care of her cats. So she inherited this $1 million property. There's no way she could qualify for a mortgage. Now, some of these people are getting private mortgages because they think that that's the only way. Unfortunate, because they're expensive, they're short-term, it's not a great option. This option is much better.
Rates are higher than what we're talking about now. And for private mortgages, it's still income-based. Majority are income-based, or you're paying like closer to 10%. And you need at least 20% down. So it's not always for everybody, even though it's short-term.
That's right. So Carol, does that, I loved what you said about purchasing an investment property and having the ability to write off the interest without having to make a payment. Now, again, they have flexibility. If they wanted to pay the interest every month, they can pay as much as 100% of the interest or as low as $100 a month. They can also pay down 10% of the outstanding balance every year. So it's a matter of what do they feel is the best thing for them. Maybe what they want to do is maybe they can afford to pay the interest, but they're just not sure that they want to give all of their cash flow towards that. They want to save money and then at the end of the year, pay down a lump sum. Brilliant. It has all of the flexibility built in to help someone get what they want within the means that they feel is best for them. So as long as you can get past the obstacle of, oh my gosh, I wouldn't want a reverse mortgage. Who would want a reverse mortgage? I don't want to lose my home. Just laugh and say, none of those things are true. Let me get you in front of an expert, because I would hate for you to make a decision based on wrong information. Right?
Got it.
Any other questions from the group?
That was really good to know.
I'm so glad you feel this way. This could make a huge impact to your business. There are realtors that I've worked with through agents and through individuals like Janice. And some of these realtors have provided me with 3-4 referrals this year. Those are deals that they would not have been able to put together without this product being in place. So I definitely know it has a place in your business. It's up to you to decide, to determine where. And maybe through further discussion with Janice, you can uncover other options. I'll give you an example. I had a group of 3 realtors with an agent talking about, their business and what they're going to do. And one of the things is they were older, and these agents said, I have a lot of clients that we are friends and we've been doing business for 20, 30 years. I think that they can use this product. I think that this would be a great option for them. I also have clients who want to buy, who are very interested in buying investment properties, but they haven't been able to qualify. Or maybe you have a client that has a private mortgage and you're saying, hold on a sec, I need to help you out with this. Because I bet you, not that everything you do has to be faced with a sale of some kind, but making a difference in your clients' lives is massive. The things and the referrals that come out of those types of actions is huge. I've seen it. So is there anything else that I could share with you or show you? I know that there is more information and more scenarios that Janice will share with you. But if there is nothing else, then it's at 2:19. We can cut this short now.
I have another scenario question I'm curious about, hear an opinion on.
Sure.
I have a client who's separated from her husband. The house is in her name, and she's the one she's a teacher, so she's got a steady income. She's moved out and she's renting a property. Now there's been no agreement to sell or whatever. But I'm wondering, would it make sense to do a reverse mortgage so she can buy something, because she's been renting for 2 years and prices are going up and they're sitting on this house. Would it make sense to do a reverse mortgage to take money out to buy? So that
now let me ask you a good question. Good question. Now here's my question is, you said that they have this property that they're renting.
No, she moved out of the family home and she's renting a condo.
Okay,
So
and her ex-spouse is in the property.
That's right.
So they're still negotiating the separation agreement?
I'm not 100% sure there or what's going on. I would assume so.
That would be a great, yeah. You know what? One of the scenarios that I didn't share here, but you're bringing it up, is gray divorce. More and more individuals are separating later in life. Mm-hmm. I mean, the oldest one I had that I did a mortgage for, they were 84 and 86. And they just decided, you know what? Life's too short. It's time to go. I don't want to live with you anymore. He wanted to stay in the family home. She already found the property that she wanted. So he ended up getting a reverse mortgage on his $1.5 million home to pay her out. He took the money, paid her out. Now he has a home that he doesn't have to make mortgage payments on, but he didn't have to move. So this could be an option for that family, for that person, depending on, because maybe they're being held up on the separation agreement because he wants to stay and he doesn't have the money to give her. But you're absolutely right. She is renting a property. Her rent is going to continue to go up and property values have continued to climb. So she is going to be pricing herself out of the market. So my question would be is, how close are they to making a decision on the separation? And is there something in the way? Is there something getting in the way of formalizing their separation and splitting everything and going their separate ways?
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Sound fair?
Yep.
Because if he would say, you know, I want to stay in this property, I'll buy you out. I'll get a reverse or I'll get a mortgage and buy you out.
He can't afford that. I know that. He can't afford that. So
he can't afford what?
Buy her out. He can't afford to buy her out.
So does he have to sell the property?
Yeah, because if they're splitting and they're not going to live together, they're going to have to sell it eventually. But I think somewhere along the line, there isn't an agreement. I would assume so because she's out to sell the property.
Right. Well, if so, it all depends on what they want to do. This could be a solution to say, sell the property, split the proceeds, get your separation finalized, and then you'll both have a lump sum of money. I can help both of them get a reverse mortgage to find the property that they're going to live in.
Okay.
Right. But that's the piece that's holding it up, because I don't know the reason. Is the reason financial or is the reason they just can't agree? You know,
I guess it's both.
Yeah, it definitely can be. These things sometimes take a long time. Yeah. So I think that would be to boil it down to, why is this taking so long? You know, can you express it? Because if it's money, what if there was a solution?
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah. Okay.
Thanks so much. Thanks so much for that scenario.
Mm-hmm.
Anyone else? Elena, Jaspreet, Michael, Michelle, are we good?
Nope, just wanted to say thank you. Appreciate all the info.
You're more than welcome. Janice is always there to answer any questions. And what Janice will do is loop me in if there's something that I can do to be of assistance, because I've just given you an overview. Again, my objective is not to make you an expert. My objective is to give you an understanding that there is an option. When we get down into the weeds of the specific client scenario, that's where Janice and I can work together to help your clients and, you know, help you get that sale.
I was talking to an agent from the office that couldn't make it yesterday, and she has a couple of income properties and wants to buy another one, but doesn't want to touch her primary. But she has one of her income properties is free and clear, so she can put a reverse mortgage on that, not have to increase her debt load, and invest in another property that with a down payment will be cash flow positive or neutral anyway. So it's just such a great way to like get started. And then what you do with the rental income, whether you manage the interest or not, is, you know, that's your financial decision. But just, there's so many options. I'm excited about it. So I'm glad. Yeah, I'm going to stop recording.